Possibly the greatest military mind of the 20th century was General George Patton. Prior to the Normandy landing in World War II, Patton got himself in trouble with some ill-advised comments he made, behaviors towards things that were relatively small in the scheme of things. And yet he was relieved of his command, and he was sent on what appeared to me a meaningless tour of Greece, of Egypt, of Malta. Eventually, he was ordered to go to the city of Dover in England, which was across the English Channel from the town of Calais. And he was made to sit there and do nothing. Patton believed that he was being punished in a way that was far out of proportion to anything he had done. He thought that he was being deprived of the opportunity to contribute his military genius where it was needed most, to an Allied victory on the European continent. What he didn't realize was that the German High Command had a unit that was devoted to tracking him. They were convinced that he was the only choice to lead the ultimate invasion of the continent. And they wanted to see where he was going, what he was doing. They wanted to keep an eye on him. And so they were tracking him, trying to figure out, why is he going to Greece and Egypt and Malta? They couldn't understand it. But then when he was sent to Dover, they were sure that meant that the Allies were preparing to invade the continent across the English Channel to Calais. It was the shortest point across the channel, the logical place for an Allied landing. And the Germans put all of their defenses right there, ready for Patton's siege on Europe. In fact, we know that the landing was at Normandy, and as grisly and as bloody as it was ultimately successful, largely because Patton was sitting in Dover doing nothing, while the Allies sent out all of these communiques that made it seem as if all this military preparation was being arranged for the landing at Calais that never happened. Even after the Allies landed in Normandy, it took hours before the Germans responded with reinforcements. The Normandy landing was successful. Eventually, World War II was won. And it is a fascinating lesson. We think we're doing nothing. We think our talents are being wasted. We think we aren't being recognized for what we can contribute. We think we're being punished out of proportion to our sins. And in fact, there may be a plan going on from an intelligence that we don't recognize, that we know nothing about, that is in fact making us a critical player in the unfolding of a success beyond our wildest comprehension. It's frustrating, it's embittering, it's spirit-breaking, and yet we never know how much of a contribution we may be actually making. And we never know when the time is going to come when our fortunes will reverse themselves. Patton was given a command, and he was largely responsible for leading the U.S. forces in their successful campaign that eventually captured Berlin and defeated the German army. Just because it doesn't look like we aren't accomplishing something, it could be we are accomplishing